All right, we are streaming. Excellent. All right, well, it's 1 minute till, so I'll redirect you all to make sure to go to the Google Doc if you have not already and add any questions you have or comments or ideas. I'm going to put the link in the chat as well. We've also got Dawa on our team now. He started yesterday. Dawa, you want to speak up real quick so everybody can see your face among the many faces?
Yeah, hey everyone. A lot of you probably know me. I've been at GitLab for 4.5 years now, but as of this Monday, I guess that's yesterday, I made the move to Meltano. And just while people are adding some more questions to the list, I just wanted to share one of the things that kind of drove me to this move, and that's just that I think that Meltano is a really interesting opportunity to apply some of the same things that have allowed GitLab to be so successful in an already pretty crowded space at the time we came in. I think a lot of those same things that make GitLab so successful are also possibilities of doing the same thing at Meltano in kind of a different industry, with some of the same advantages, like, it's open source, you have a very highly technical community, so you're really working with them to make this thing work. And Meltano today is only slightly smaller than GitLab was when I originally joined it, so I'm really looking forward to using some of the stuff I've learned over the years and then seeing if we can do some of the same things here and maybe even better, because that's how learning from experience works. But yeah, it's a different industry where things that we've done with GitLab, like building an end-to-end solution, trying to build not necessarily one like best of breed tool, but one tool that will be good enough for ultimately a majority of users, while giving them the opportunity to swap out certain components if they need more certain steps of the life cycle. I think that's extremely very exciting and really, really promising. And what also really excites me is just seeing how some of the data people at GitLab and externally in some of the data Slack channels that I've been joining over the last couple of days, how excited everyone is getting about Meltano, even though it's in such an early stage. Just the promise of it, that definitely kind of fuels my excitement, because before doing this, I had very, very little knowledge or experience with the entire data analytics or data engineering or data science space. So yeah, I basically came for the challenge, but I'm really glad to see that that things seem to be in a good position for us to build something really, really, really impressive here. So yeah, that's what I hope to do with the help of everyone else in the team, and of course this community that's already started growing around it. So all right, I think that should be enough time for a couple more questions that have been added. Danielle, do you want to start answering some of them?
Yes, absolutely. Tracy, do you want to go ahead and vocalize your question first?
Yes, I was curious about what the go-to-market plan will be for Meltano, when it will move to a proprietary product, and how we'll sell it, and when we'll start selling it.
So I added a couple of thoughts in the doc here, but I'll just speak to them briefly. So I think we're so early that a lot of what I would say now is kind of speculation, to be totally honest. I think the first thing is with the go-to-market plan is that we don't have product market fit yet. We are lucky in the sense that we're building a product in a space where there are existing competitors. So we're not making a new market, but at the same time, we haven't really reached that point where people are pulling Meltano out of our hands, and enough people know about it that they're starting to kind of demand features faster than we can build them. So far the go-to-market has been pretty grassroots, focused on content, blogging, social media, YouTube, and really a lot of more product central marketing that's really geared towards kind of early adopter type users. So once the product market fit is achieved, or something close to it happens, we'll start to ramp up things like paid spend, landing pages, partnerships, kind of going through I would say like the B2B marketing playbook more or less, and trying out experiments in a lot of those channels, but we're not quite there yet. I'm definitely excited to be there. Those are definitely powerful channels, but I feel right now that if we spent money on them, probably we would have a lot of that kind of go in the top, but just the bottom of our funnel in terms of the product itself just isn't good enough to retain a lot of those users. So I want to be smart about kind of where we spend money. As far as moving to a proprietary product, we don't entirely know what will happen, but my hunch is we will follow a path similar to GitLab, where we will have an enterprise edition, and then the current feature set will be more of a community edition, but it's not entirely clear. There are some different business models in data that we could explore. So again, pretty far off from figuring that out at this point, and definitely doing a lot of exploration. And then as far as selling anything, obviously without product market fit, without a business model, selling things is fairly far off, but I think we will definitely be making tons of noise about it as soon as that's an option. realistically, if I had to give a rough estimate, it's probably more than a year away, just given all the other steps that need to happen before.
Thank you.
Sid, would you like to ask your question?
Sure. We see the Maui going down in the recent weeks, and I think it might be an artifact of inflated numbers in the past, but I just wanted your take on it. I haven't seen the recent numbers where I think the last time I saw it was like 120. Now it's half of that.
Yeah.
What do you think is happening? Is it a measuring artifact? Is it inflation in the past? Is there something going wrong? Are people not liking the product?
See, I hate to make excuses, so I have to be careful because I could definitely speculate. So your measuring artifact comment is interesting because we just had a bunch of vacations, so that could be a thing. August is an interesting month in the world, just tends to be a time of a lot of vacations. We could have users who went offline and are coming back. We're dealing with really small numbers, so even though it's cut in half, like I'm thrilled that even 61 people wanted to use Meltano in the last week of August. But I think the bigger thing is just we have not put a focus on growing this number. And it's not that we don't take it seriously, but we've just prioritized different things to get to V1. And I think that's something that has to change. So I think it's really just more a function of what we do or don't do. So do we do blog posts? Do we do podcasts? Are we on YouTube? Are we on social? With the numbers being so small, I'm hesitant to blame it on any kind of like seasonality. I'd rather just say like, I don't think we've done enough. And I think it comes from a conscious choice, but it's not a choice we could afford to keep making because obviously it gets harder and harder to catch up. I'm really excited. There are things coming in the future that make it easier to promote. So I don't think this is a permanent state of affairs. But I think we're accountable for it.
I'm totally aligned with not marketing yet and first getting to V1. I think that's the right choice. What's a bit weird is that if these are real numbers, which is a question, but then that's a very leaky bucket. So it's almost, even though we know it's not V1 yet, these were people that were also apparently happy with a version a couple of weeks ago. So why are they churning now? So, but I'm not sure it's a real number. I'm not sure that it's the same users we're looking at. So I think that makes it really hard to say.
I think the best thing we can do here is to start talking to more people. So we fortunately have this newsletter list that we're going to be emailing this week, and we're going to be requesting calls or conversations with real people because it's hard to speculate from a graph. I would much rather just find out, like, were you happy 2 months ago and now you're not, or, what caused you to drop off? And I think we're not going to get everyone to respond, but we have over 150 people in that list. And so that's more than our highest number of Maui ever. So I think we should be able to get some information from that process.
I think that's really smart. I think the numbers are so small, doing it quantitative or qualitative is really smart. So I think that's great. And it's okay if it's not for everyone. It's just, we don't want to make it worse for the people who are using it already.
Yep, totally agree. I see a question from Dahlia as well, kind of in the same vein. Dahlia, do you want to speak to that one?
Yeah, I was just curious along those lines, if you have numbers for new users week to week or even month to month. So out of those active users, how many are joining on a like how many users do you have?
Yeah, so actually we don't right now because we're not doing unique identifiers for users. So we can look at kind of from like what Google Analytics gives us in terms of traffic, we can see new, but it's not necessarily Maui. So it's certainly something we'd like to track, but not something we track today just because people are installing Meltano locally. So we don't always have a way to know if they're the same person. They're kind of new to us every time, basically. Hey, Kai, would you like to speak to your comment here?
Sure. I was just, I noticed that it trended upwards at the last group conversation. So if you look at the date of the last one, it was July 30th, which is somewhere in between like the trend up to 119 or so. So I don't know if the YouTube video or if it's like GitLab employees that might be going and playing with it that trend your users in one way too. So maybe just another piece to look at for that data.
That's a great point. I hope it's GitLabbers using it. I mean, I'm very grateful. We have been getting a lot of support from the data team and others. So it's a good point. And after we promote this one today, hopefully we can drive usage back. To me, I'm shameless. Like anything we produce content-wise, whether it's a YouTube video or cool stories internally or whatever, we should just promote it, because right now these numbers are so small. Like, yes, if we can get all of you to go use Meltano today, oh, our problem is fixed. That's a great point though, Kai, thank you. Well, I don't see any other questions, but I'm just going to tell you a little bit about what's coming for V1, which will take me about a minute and a half. And if you feel like throwing in questions while I'm talking about that, now's the time. So V1 has just a couple things left. You might have seen we published a blog post last night. The fastest way, by the way, to find all the Meltano kind of noise and excitement is probably to go to our Twitter feed. So we published a blog post last night talking about a couple of the principles that are behind our choices for V1. And we're really, really close. So the big thing that we'll be launching ideally next week, we'll see if it happens in time, is a one-click install in DigitalOcean. And eventually we'd really like to have one-click installs everywhere. But basically in data analyst world, there's a lot of analysts who don't ever set up their own tools. They're given a laptop or they're given a SaaS login, and it's like you're off to the races. And so we needed to make Meltano easier to adopt. And the big part of that is just making it so that we preset an image, Meltano's already installed on it, has some great scripts that run on boot so that you don't have to do a bunch of configuration. And you get a very similar experience. You know, you've got a URL now, you can just go. And so that's the big step that we needed to make, we believe, to increase the MAUI adoption. And one of the interesting stats that's not visible in the graph that you saw is there's a lot of command line use. So there's a lot of people using maybe pieces or maybe all of Meltano end to end there, but our goal is MAUI. So we need to make it really easy to make that last step. So you might have heard Sid mention a leaky bucket. The real bummer would be if people say, like, you know, this is really great on the command line, but you guys suck at user interface. And I don't think that's true, but that's what we need to learn. We need to get good at building DNA around user experience. So that's really why the one-click installs are so powerful. Then you can really see the value of Meltano end to end. And the key is you want a cool dashboard that you can then show another person. We haven't even gotten into the version control and collaboration aspect of this product yet, because we need to give you something that's worth sharing. So we're going to earn the right to have a whole new set of problems once we can get people past the challenge of going from the command line to the UI. So that is all coming in the next week or two. Going to make a lot of noise about it. Going to be spinning up a bunch of additional campaigns around each of the taps and targets, which are all branded. So I think those things are all going to be driving us towards higher numbers. Oh, Emily, would you like to ask your question?
Yeah, thanks, Danielle. So we all know I'm the biggest Meltano fan in the world. Why I saw that the Path to V1 blog post went up on Medium. Is that to try to get more eyes on it, as opposed to, I guess my concern is like the duplicate effort between Meltano blog and Medium.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. So I had a call with my old VP marketing yesterday, and I was like, you know, my numbers kind of suck. Like, I need a pep talk. Give me a couple ideas. Like, what do you look at how we're doing marketing? What do you see? And he said, you know, you're doing open source, so you don't need to focus so much on driving people to meltano.com. You need to focus on making sure everybody knows who you are. And a lot of these platforms out there can give you a lot more exposure. So Medium, for example, is a network. So they're going to recommend your content to other people who've also subscribed to other similar interests. Another thing I think we're going to be kicking off is using Substack for our newsletter rather than using marketing automation. I think we need to take advantage of these free things. It's tempting, you know, being inside GitLab, which is well organized and has all these tools, we can use all these tools. But if we think about if this was really a startup on its own, trying to be scrappy, what would we do? We would try to take advantage of whatever other network effects we could. And the truth is, I'm just going to republish it to the Meltano blog. So it's like copy paste is a couple extra seconds. It's also interesting to see how it changes the way you write when you have to write for a bigger audience. So I think there's a lot of benefits to just continuing to explore being in all these different places. I think we could be doing a lot more with YouTube, for example. We have all these videos, but I don't think we really take advantage of the discovery that they enable. So I wanted to go deeper on that kind of line of thinking. And I want to give credit where credit's due to Jonathan in case he's listening, because someday I swear I'm going to hire you to work on this team, sir. But yeah, so that's why we did that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. That's really good context.
Cool. Well, I don't want to belabor this call if there are no other questions. I just really want to make sure there's space if anyone else wants to speak up. Very excited to have Dawa on the team. He's onboarding now. He's going to be on his honeymoon, and he'll be back in November, and he'll be taking over my responsibilities as engineering manager so that I can kind of go full GM and start to work on the marketing engine with a lot more focus. So could not be more thrilled to have him. And with that, if there are no other questions, I'll wrap it up. But thank you so much, everyone. Bye.